1, 2? Okay, there we go. Lots of volume probably. Except I thought I heard myself. Maybe I was on the microphone. I'm not on the call. What would I be doing wrong? Oh, maybe I am on the call. Let's see here. I got so many windows open. Been having nothing but computer issues. I got to tell you, it's my problems, you know. So yeah, I think that's what's going on. Is I have all these things going, and that was what I was hearing when I was testing. Well, there you go. Make sure you open up. I don't like leaving windows open, but I have gotten into the habit because of on the Mac. It's actually kind of nice. And guess what? It doesn't work all the time because it doesn't actually have a save state there completely. So I had like the audio on. I hope that's it. Okay, thanks, Joaquin. Hey, Daniel Firestone, how you doing? Daniel was one guy I used to paint with. I miss painting with Dan, and I miss painting with everybody. So, I was working on this Marine, Space Marine Lieutenant Titus. I freehanded the Ultramarine logo. It's a little broad, but you know, I've never painted any Ultramarines. It may not be 100% true, but I don't think I really painted any Ultramarines. Turned out okay. Did some highlights. Did some wear. Used the Agrex Earth, Agrellan Earth. Is that right? I just showed it, but I don't. Agrellan Earth. So I'm going to try to use some more of it later today. I actually have like tufts of grass where, who knows where that ended up. I have skulls and tufts of grass, so they're somewhere. I need to track them down. I thought the tufts of grass were like right here, but I could not find them this morning. But I want to work on that a little bit more and get him, you know, organized. I'm going to try to airbrush on the stream. I had been having issues with Airbrush. Hey, I'm glad you're doing well, Daniel. I'm going to try to use the airbrush on the stream, which is not like one thing I would really like to do for fear of, you know, I mean, people want to see me do it, but I also don't want to have paint get into any of the cameras. So I will be spraying very lightly. I'll probably just do one miniature. And, you know, I should be wearing a mask. All these things. You should do all kinds of things. I'm going to do them all wrong right now. But interesting. I don't know what I was doing when I had the audio test. I guess it was just, so the Mac is actually, when I'm using a program, you know, I'm showing this stuff on camera and it's not even there. So let's cut. Anyway, here's the Space Marine. Third time's the charm. Lieutenant Titus, freehanded the Ultramarine logo, worked a little bit more on the Purity Scrolls, or whatever the heck they are called. I think that's what they're called. Put some damage on it. Was really frustrated with the white. I used 2 different brands of white yesterday. I mean, I really like the Pro Acryl. What I probably should have done is tried to use an ink. Although I don't know. I've never really used an ink as a, for lining. What did I do there? I had such weird problems. That could be the, one of the things I had problems with was just the texture paints. Is that what this one's called? It is a texture paint. I also had used a little bit of this one, Sterling Mud, which is gritty, you know. And oh my goodness, that was everywhere. On my brush. But yeah, it didn't really crack a lot, which I just didn't put on enough, I guess, because it's doing okay here. It did some of the, you know, the effect that it does where it cracks. So I need to put some more on it. It's possible that it's just old. I mean, it isn't that old. I bought it 2 years ago, I think, but I didn't use it. And who knows if it sat on the shelf where I bought it from. That stuff happens all the time. So let's just see if the airbrush will work. First thing you should always do, this is not one of my premium airbrushes at all. This was a $40 airbrush that Barbados Rex channel recommended. That I'm always looking to see if I can recommend an inexpensive airbrush. But I got to tell you, the more I use the inexpensive airbrushes, the more I feel you should pay a little bit of money. This is not a bad airbrush, and the one that comes with this compressor that I bought, I showed a while back. It's the, I think they might have changed the name, even though I think you can look for it, the YFUFU. It was funny, I had bought it and then I saw that Ninjon did a video about it, and it's a pretty cool little compressor. It's quiet. It does a lot of jerking around when you're turning it on and off, so it kind of shifts around a bit, which is kind of worrisome. Anyway, just because it moves, it's constantly moving. I actually kind of wish I had like a little sort of a holster or something, because I actually painted outside with it in my pocket, and it got a little warm. You don't want it to get too warm. Let's see if I can make this a little bit quieter by resting on a towel or something. But I do like it. It works great. It's relatively quiet. It's not as quiet as I remember it being recently, but I guess it's a little bit better when it's not sitting on a table, hard table. But you always want to run water through it. I mean, in my opinion, you should run water through it. You should make sure the airbrush is working. This was a Neo Echo airbrush from Amazon for like $40. There's even a newer version, I believe. Barbados Rex does a lot of reviews of airbrushes. He actually, I would say, now I don't think I've used it yet. I might have showed it already, but I did buy the Gallery airbrush that some people are talking about lately. And it's a little bit more professional. Might as well just look at it for a minute. Not that this, you know, this is fine. I mean, this is actually a pretty well engineered piece of equipment. It's just, there's just issues. First of all, I don't like rubber seals. I've had nothing but heartache with them. But I will tell you, Teflon or PTFE seals aren't always great either. So this airbrush is this new company that's supposedly seriously trying to make solid airbrushes. And this one's interesting. It's got a really cool nozzle that's kind of reminiscent of, see if I can get this out without breaking everything. Kind of reminiscent of, see now there's a seal I don't like, and something just fell. Oh, that's the needle that just fell out. So this is kind of like the nozzle, excuse me. This is kind of like the nozzle in a smaller version, let's say, of the one that's inside of a Heider and Steenbeck. This one has a new thing where they have 8 channels going around the edge of it. And you know, it's easy to take apart. It's got a PTF, you can't see that, it's got a PTFE seal. It's fluted with these 8 channels. I believe, I got it before I left for Europe. I believe I ran it a little bit. I know I did, because I remember cleaning it, but this seal is weird. This green, I don't know if it's really green. I mean, it is, because I saw they give you a few extra ones, but I just don't like these seals. Now, this one's not in a critical part where solvents could be a problem necessarily. Now, I don't know how good this is for leaking. I didn't check it. You know, you check it by putting a little bit of, actually what I think I usually just put on is airbrush thinner, airbrush cleaner. They have some elements that make it bubble, and you can, actually we can do it right now if we want to see here. But it's a nice airbrush. It's built relatively well. It's not cheap. It's $100, I think, the going price, even though it's like $120 on Amazon some of the times, but it's been discounted. And I guess they had a real discount the other day. I think it was about $10 less than I paid for this one, and I paid a pretty good price. So let's get some airbrush cleaner. I am assuming it's sitting right here, but that might be a big fat mistake. Let me look. I think it's behind me. Yes, it is. I have a smaller bottle. Oh, I have a smaller bottle up here, I believe. All I know is I see things, I'm like, oh, there it is, and then I don't remember where it's at. Let's just use the bigger bottle. I know I have a smaller bottle. Goodness gracious, where did I find that? Too many things. I've been trying to find stuff and seeing things, and I've disrupted the area here for the projects, and it's great. I have the computer here now, but I got to tell you, it's also not so great. So let's just put a little bit on there and see what we got here. So there you go. There's a lot of bubble in there. Not a good sign. Maybe it's not tight enough, maybe. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, the Badger airbrushes I have, I mean, I have to like put some pressure on it, so it's not that bad. The Badger airbrushes I have do that. And let's see if this leaks over here. I don't know how you have to push your, focus. Now, there's no leak at that point, which is where your trigger works to pull, increase and decrease the amount of air that you're using. It's an actual piston kind of connection. But yeah, this is actually I probably should be using this airbrush, truthfully, just to actually see how it goes. I've had it for, I think it's beyond the warranty now, because I bought it before I went to Germany, which was probably a mistake. This one actually comes with 2 cups, I thought. No, maybe not. Maybe there's another. There's like 3 or 4 versions of this, and they've got even a more high-end one coming soon. This one does come with another needle. Let's see what this one says. I think this one says needle and nozzle, excuse me. You have to buy them all together. 0.5. So this is probably a 2.2 or something like that, or 0.3. I don't remember. What was the deal? Was the D? I guess it's the dual. I don't know. I don't remember. There's some terminology with this. They have a standard kind of. They have a very nice polished cup. I did. You know what? I did use this. I remember painting with it and being pretty amazed at how much how easy it was to clean this cup. The paint did not really adhere. Now I have this is kind of the airbrush that they're copying, I feel. If you look at it, it's very similar. This is the Iwata Eclipse HPCS, but you can see the cup is really, really polished. I mean, actually, this one has all kinds of weird stuff going on. And I mean, it's not a big deal. It's nice because it cleans more easily. You know, you can definitely get the paint out of there. It doesn't stick as intensely as it does on some of the other cups. But boy, that doesn't look so great. And oops, you can't see it. Inside there's a lot of scratching and stuff. And I mean, I've used this airbrush, but not that much. This one is very, very polished, so it's pretty nice. Anyway, but yeah, I feel like they're copying this airbrush. If you look at it, it's similar. This portion here is not on, that is on some airbrushes that Iwata puts out, but they might be part of the Sparmax line, which I'm not certain what the relationship is with Sparmax. I don't know if it's owned by Iwata or if they just manufacture some airbrushes for them. So this has a stop that you can do. I mean, it's a nice airbrush. Now let me shake the heck out of this paint. I got to tell you, I've had nothing but troubles with everything lately, and I have a lot of airbrushes. You know, I mean, I have used them for years, but I'm not certain about some of these new ones, man. Like I mean, I have some new Badgers. I've used Badgers forever, and they're nice airbrushes. I'm leaving water in here, which isn't a good thing. I mean, it should be okay, but you don't really want to. I mean, if you look at this cup, it's all kinds of weird angles, and it's it's weirdly ground, and you know, it's that transition from the cup to the opening in the airbrush is not great, and so I mean, that's a disappointment. But this is an inexpensive airbrush. This is $40, so it probably costs not next to nothing, but pretty darn cheap to manufacture. So I would say, you know, you should definitely invest in an airbrush. There's a lot of choices out there. Again, I need to test with water. Never do this without testing with water. I wonder about the parts available for these less common. Absolutely, James Brown. That is one of the things that frustrates me the most. So I have 2 Harder Steenbeck airbrushes. I want to get all the painted minis out of the way. I have, you know, 7 or 8 or I don't know, Badger over the years. Oh, more than that, I'm sure. And I really like Badger airbrushes, and you can get parts. They're more readily available for sure than any of these Asian ones. Now, the gallery airbrushes, these guys are supposedly very serious about trying to be a legitimate brand. So I imagine, I mean, I think I saw something somewhere on Reddit from the company that they will be putting parts out for this, but that is truly an issue. I mean, in my opinion, if you're going to use one of these airbrushes, it needs to be expensive so you can buy 2 of them, because you might need parts like replacing the needle. I mean, some of them are consistent amongst all these Chinese brands, so you could probably get away with it. But when you buy a needle and a nozzle and all of the parts up front here for the nozzle, they all need to match. So you've definitely, you know, it's good to have a brand that you can get the parts from. If these guys come through, I don't know. I'm surprised I actually spent $100 on this, because I could tell you, well, I didn't spend 100. I spent about 80 something dollars. But I can tell you can buy the Ultra from Harder and Steenbeck. It's about $100, maybe 100. I mean, you know, I don't know about, I can't remember what they charge at Spray Gunner, which is where I buy some of that stuff. And the Spray Gunner sells through Amazon as well, but you know, $100 for a, I mean, for sure, Harder Steenbeck, Badger. I mean, this is one of my favorite airbrushes, although it's having a problem right now. I was going to use it to paint the stuff, and it had an issue. I don't even know what it is. I mean, I'm one of those people that is ridiculous about cleaning the airbrushes, because for you, I mean, I barely ever had to replace parts on my very first Badger forever, because I just cleaned it meticulously. I knew, I actually watched a bunch of videos from Harder and Steenbeck recently. Hey, Eisenhorn01, evening chat. I watched these videos from Harder and Steenbeck. They have their CEO of manufacture or design or something. He's interesting and talks about a lot of stuff. And he's saying you should only ever clean this portion of the brush. There should be no paint in here. Part of that issue, of course, is taking out your needle. If you have an airbrush like this one, the needle can't go out through the front of the gun because it has this. Now, if you clean your airbrush plenty before you pull your needle out, you shouldn't have any problems. It's not hard. Hey, look at that. It's not hard to do, and you should do that. You should never let paint dry in it, and that's a serious issue, right? You're going to cause a lot of problems. I think this is too heavy. So let's see if I can slow it down a little bit. Of course, there's no water, so. So I kind of feel like if you can spend you know, his thing was, he said, first of all, clean only the stuff from this point forward. Do not break any of this other stuff down unless you have to. You can pull all of this out and it's totally fine, but in here especially, you know, this comes apart on all of these airbrushes, except for this one. You pull everything out from beneath. And so that actually probably discourages you from messing with it. Harder and Steenbeck's actually, let me see here, I can pull one out. Harder and Steenbeck's really break down. Like, you can tear them apart very, very well. This is the most recent one I had gotten. Oh yeah, this one is maybe what I'm confusing the two cups with. Wow. So this is a nice airbrush. It works pretty great. But all of this comes apart. You can break all of this down. This comes apart. But you shouldn't have to break any of that down. The goal is to just only focus on the part where the paint is actually going into the system, intermixing with the nozzle and everything. Now, cleaning the nozzle is a challenge sometimes. It depends on the airbrush. I was saying that this one was like the Harder and Steenbeck one, the gallery one here. Let's see if I can get this open. So here's the nozzle on the Harder and Steenbeck. And, you know, it's much bigger. It's machined very, very well. I mean, this is your problem. You never want paint to dry because you don't want to get, you can't see that. These needles, you just do not want paint in them, you know, to dry. You must keep it flowing and immediately clean it, at least with some solvent. I'm not even sure. You can see some of my paint here. So I didn't do a very good job cleaning this the last time. Now this is all on the outside, but still, that is a good amount of paint. I need to work on that. I gotta say, I don't know what is up with me because I feel I'm not as good as I used to be on cleaning the airbrush. I think I'm trying to do what a lot of people recommend, which, let's actually see how this is with, if water's going through it. You know, they're like, you know, you can just bubble it and clean it out. I don't really agree with that. I don't break it down entirely, but I do spend some time on it, cleaning it. Huh. Boy, I could not have. Well, let's see here. Let's clean the needle. But anyway, so on the Harder and Steenbeck channel, they actually have a lot of airbrush advice, and it's pretty great. You can learn a lot about what you should do, how to mix paints. Yeah, there's no paint on the needle. Although it sure looks like it on that end. You probably can't see that on camera, but it just looks like on the very tip there's something going on there. So I need to look at that more carefully. But let's try spraying some water through it and find out what we got in store here. So yeah, Hearthkyn Steenbeck has a wide range. Their needles are, you can use them through several different of their airbrushes, needles and nozzles. So it's interchangeable, which is great. They do have a new Ultra that they have introduced. Yeah, so this is great. You know, it's. So I guess I cleaned it enough, but I got to tell you, I'm a little nervous about that. I do not like seeing paint. Again, I bought this relatively close to us leaving for Germany because I was actually contemplating buying one in Germany, and I just got a better deal in the States. This has a pretty neat system here where you can, because of the needle, this is used as a guide and a protector. You can just pinch it and pull the dry tip off of it, which is pretty great. A lot of people are better about dry tip than I am. For whatever reason, I don't have the method to keep it really. There's good ways to do it so you don't have to mess with it too much. Anyway, so there you go. That's the Hearthkyn Steenbeck one. It's a nice, and you know, this is $200 and something. But as I say, they have a inexpensive one from that you can get at. I think you can even get it. Well, I'm pretty sure you can get it at Spray Gunner at the Ultra. They have it. I think they have an even less expensive airbrush, but I don't know anything about that. And I would say you kind of want to keep it in the ecosystem. So there's 3 airbrushes at least: the Infinity, the Evolution, and the Ultra. They have some parts common: nozzle, needle. The chuck is probably the same on most of them, but a lot of this other stuff is different. Triggers the same, I believe, or similar. So yeah, you want to make sure that you don't go too crazy. What did I do with that cup? Wow, I'm just making a mess here. I know there are 2 cups in this one. I was commenting on it. Oh, it's going in the wrong thing. That is why. That's the gallery. So yeah, I think that it's worth getting, you know, a decent airbrush. And one of the things he was saying, you just get the best. I'm sorry, I can't remember his name on the Hearthkyn Steenbeck. He's like, get as good of airbrush, a compressor. He goes, your major interface is with the airbrush, so you should spend a little bit more on that. And I kind of have to agree. As I said, I really like Badger. Badger's US made. They're available all over the place. I've used them for 30-something years. I think they're really good. Hey, Seth G. Stewart. We're doing good here. This is a weird one. You use this tool here to take off this part here. It's so weird. I mean, it's all kind of like hand-tight stuff. And there's Angel Heraldez. It's Angel Heraldez if you're looking at it in English. He has an airbrush design that has some other, like a different front end for the nozzle. You know how it had the fork. It has one that actually has a little bit more of a point, sticks out more, so that you can use it as a even better gauge for measuring the distance from your airbrush to the stuff you're working on. I don't generally work that close. I'm not that. When I do get close, I generally take off the cap. So meaning I take this bit off right up front, and then airbrush very, very close. It's funny, there was a lot of things that I do on my airbrush that this guy, I heard his name like 3 times in the videos yesterday I was looking at, and I don't remember, but he was saying, you know, he feels you should hold your airbrush like this. And that's how I do it. He's like, he was saying people that kind of have a whole thing. I mean, whatever works for you. He said that he started off with Giger does his airbrush like this. And he says, how can you argue with that? The guy's an amazing artist. So, but he felt it was so awkward. But anyway, there's a lot of stuff out there. You can definitely spend money on a airbrush. Man, I got to tell you, I don't know what all this stuff is. One of these belongs to this other airbrush. Wow, that is weird. They look very similar. I would say this one belongs to this gallery, since it's same level. So let's just see what we get here. See if we can actually airbrush a little bit. I am going to be working on some more of the termagants. I want to get at least one done. I'm thirsty. One of the things I actually use is beeswax. You use it to seal. If you have a leak like I was checking for on this gallery, you can solve that by putting a little bit of wax on the threads, and it shouldn't leak. But this one has, like I showed you earlier, it has a gasket on the tip there. I mean, really, it's not necessary. Like this one, this does not have any issue. All this does is protect the needle and the nozzle. So it doesn't necessarily need to have that, but here it might need some beeswax. Here it might need some beeswax. So let me shake up this paint. I'm taking my fate into my hands here and do this in the studio. I mean, I actually do it in the studio. Behind me, I have a spray booth that works pretty fantastically. But like I said, you should wear a respirator. I'm going to really try to do this delicately. I actually am going to move a bunch of miniatures. There's a bunch of painted miniatures here out of the way. I do not want to mess them up. Because I am now basically using this airbrush sort of for the first time, even though I do believe I used it. Because I do remember cleaning the cup. But I don't remember what I did. Maybe one mini. But yeah, there's ways to get different effects out of every airbrush by adjusting the... You want your paint to always be the right level of consistency for to go out of the airbrush. But if you change the air pressure of your airbrush, then you could get a more splattered effect. Believe me, I've learned that very young because I just was not. I mean, I had nobody around me that knew how to use an airbrush when I first started using an airbrush. And then when I got to high school, my teacher, I mean, I was using airbrush. I became the airbrush guy because everybody didn't have one, and I had the whole setup because my parents got it for me. And they, everybody had me airbrush parts for them, but my teacher actually was an airbrush. He did use an airbrush a lot, so it was great. Now, he was definitely a talented brush painter. Really, really good brush painter. Okay, so we theoretically have an airbrush that sprays. You should probably put a drop or two of thinner in it ahead of pouring paint in. I ended up buying another bottle of... you really should, I mean, so on that video he was saying use the thinners from the manufacturer of the paints, but not every manufacturer makes thinners for acrylics. Now, they're mostly similar, but there are differences. And so I don't know what that answer is. I just use a little, I use Vallejo airbrush thinners. I don't know that Army Painter makes any. I'm pretty certain Badger doesn't. I mean, not Badger. Oh, Badger has paint, so maybe. I mean, Games Workshop. Badger probably has a thinner. I don't know though. So then, you know, you check it. Ooh, that's very thin. Oh, duh, I had thinner in there. That is an issue. You do not want to spray thinner on your model, and I didn't actually stir it. So let's stir it up a little bit here. I do it usually with just the end of a brush. Then you make sure the paint goes through, and it's going very well. Seems like a nice airbrush. So it has some control. I mean, this is a nice airbrush. I mean, if these guys fall through and you can get the parts, then maybe this is a good choice. So I'm going to do this very slow. I usually spray a lot more quickly, but I do not want paint flying all over in here. I've actually airbrushed a couple times lately without a mask because when I was in Germany, I painted, I actually cleaned Sebastian's airbrush. I believe he had an Evolution Harder and Steenbeck, you know, he's German, so they're definitely going to buy a German airbrush, and I don't blame them. I mean, if you're going to get an airbrush, it's not a bad one to get. Oh, I was saying that there's a new Ultra. The neat thing about the new Ultra is it has like these. It's designed to get you started and become an you know, an airbrush artist. You know, where you understand, not, you know, you can paint miniatures and be an airbrush artist, but like to understand. That didn't sound good. But it has these stops so that you can adjust it back here. That it restricts the trigger action, and it. So if you're going to be painting a base, spoiler, I bought one so that I can show it. That you can adjust it to if you're basing or detailing. It's got like four or five settings. It looks pretty great, and it has like I don't know if their guide here on the chuck is the same on all their airbrushes. I didn't look at that other one. I've never noticed because I have no problem sticking a needle in the back of an airbrush, but they have like a guide to prevent you from connecting to it weirdly. One of the does this one? I can't remember what this one does for the trigger. I mean, that's another great thing about the higher end, or not higher end, but the Evolution, the Infinity, and the Ultra is they have a trigger with the mechanism that pulls back the needle as you pull back the trigger. It's integrated with the trigger itself. This is a separate piece in here. Man, I don't want to take it apart now since I'm using it, but I do kind of want to know. So what I'm doing here, I put a lot on there. Now it's okay. This paint is actually pretty self-leveling, and it does a nice job. So I guess since I'm doing this, I'll do a few of them. Hello from Sweden. Hello, Marie. How you doing? So we have both the YouTube and the Twitch chat going now, since we decided to stream on both simultaneously. So you might not see this chat in whatever version of that you're looking at us through. Yeah, this is actually doing a pretty good job, and it's not throwing. I mean, I'm sure you saw it. It squirted out a lot of paint there at one point. And I smell a little paint in the air, so I'm doing a decent job. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty of paint. So when I purchased some varnish one time that I had wanted to try, and I still haven't really airbrushed varnish on. It was instantaneously. It was in the air, and I was trying to do. I mean, I have skills at painting with an airbrush, and it was crazy. Within about 30 seconds, I was having a hard time breathing. So number one, use a respirator. Actually, I could probably put something on here. I think all of them are in the house. So use a spray booth. That definitely helps. I was saying I airbrushed at Sebastian's. He only had one respirator, so I couldn't use his. But I definitely wear a mask. Or paint outside, too. It's pretty great to do it outside if you can. Seems like it. No, it's still doing it. I'm just delicately putting it on. So I'm going to do a zenithal highlight, which is how I've been doing just about everything I do anymore. It's kind of the cool way to paint minis, like a quick way to get through stuff. One thing I will say, though, which I don't do, is if you have something that has, because I've been using the contrast paints, and if you look at this guy, where'd I put him? Right here, it's a little blotchy. That was, I mean, these are larger, smoother surfaces. It's blotchy. But one way to get around that is to prime it, do the zenithal highlight, and then come over it with a thinned out version of the paint or the contrast or speed paints, and then do the work on covering the face, like it with the different colors. It's a pretty great method. What you do lose by doing that is you lose your zenithal priming for these other things that you might paint that are not going to be airbrushed because it's too small. But it looks pretty great. I've never done it with, I've done plenty of things where I've used it. I've had the, where are those at? I have some Chaos Space Marines that I did that, where it came up with a pretty nice technique. I was, you know, I really, wow, let's see, gotta keep going. So yeah, one of the things you're probably not seeing, but you absolutely should press down first, then pull back the paint. I'm pretty good at that. I don't get any, I rarely get spatter. I might get excited and do something too quickly, and that can cause problems. The goal here is to not actually have any more paint added. I might make it, so I have very little clean between this one and the gray. So on my Zenithal highlights, I do a black, then a gray, and then the white to give it the varying levels of, hey, it's starting to bubble. No, it's still doing it. Maybe it's just because it's getting to the end. Let's see here. I think I have a little bit on the top here that didn't get. It's still going. So yeah, it's a little painting here. I'm painting more than I should. I really recommend wearing a mask. Because, you know, it's not good. It's not good to breathe the stuff in. So now let's clean this. You don't really have to spend too much effort between coats. You just kind of really want to do a good job at the end of the day. I do have a cup here that I should be using, but I think it's got a bunch of, yeah, I made a mess of it. Oh, but you know, I should bring my bottle that you use to clean your paint out. I've only ever really airbrushed in the house here on my own once without a mask. I really don't like to do it. It's kind of crazy how dangerous it all is. So do not follow what I'm doing here. Let's see here. So I do a little bit of cleaning before I, you don't have to fully clean it, you just want it to run relatively clear. I don't know why my phone is making noise. You want it to run relatively clear before you move on to the next one because we're going from darker to lighter. Let me mute this. So I do, I pour water into it. You can do the backflow thing, so I'll show you that real quick. You put water in, you cover the tip of it. Let's get to focus. Come on, too many shiny things. You get it to, you cover it on the end, and it will push the paint through. I was watching somebody say that they felt this was risky, that you're getting paint into the body of the airbrush. You shouldn't be, it shouldn't happen. Number one, you should make sure you're not pressing that much hard on it that it's just going to shoot that much water into it. But additionally, I mean, you know, that much paint back forcing it. But your seal, they have a seal in the back, inside the body here, that is, I almost feel like all of them are PTFE, that snugly holds the needle. If you didn't have that, and it wasn't tight enough, the seal wasn't tight enough, then you would have all kinds of paint coming back in all the time, because your needle, you pull the trigger back and it goes into the body somewhat, right? I mean, it's pretty far, right? So imagine the seal's like around here and the paint's all up here. So it's not really going to be a problem. But I have had no problem doing the back flush method forever, and for a very long time. As a matter of fact, that was something I figured out on my own because I just one time put a towel over the end of it. I'm like, oh. And that was a long time ago. So let's do this a little bit more. Okay, a little bit more water. It's probably not clean in there. It looks kind of dark-ish still. It is. Not you guys can't see any of this stuff. This is another airbrush in here that I was trying to use. This is the one that came with the little compressor. I was like, I'll just use that one, and it's got a problem. So I decided to try to use one of these other ones. I do like most of the ones that I have. The Harder Steenbeck they're nice. I only have one Iwata. I have an Iwata compressor, and I use their cleaning solution, airbrush cleaner. I don't know if you can see it, but there's not much paint in here. The cup is very smooth. Normally I would have a lot of paint that would stick, but I can usually clean it out without using a solvent, water water too. Should I maybe a proposal to BGG? Mom Gamer, I don't know what why don't you write contact@boardgamegeek.com, and they will, if you tell people what you are looking to do, they will direct it to the right people that you might want to talk to. Did you see the raid and the follows? I did not. I'm sorry. Wow, why am I not? Oh, I'm not plugged in. Wow. Sorry. Boo. I unplugged myself to find something earlier and then didn't plug myself back in. Boo, boo, boo. I'm sorry, everybody. I do appreciate people rating us, and we like to rate others. Wow, how terrible. Sorry about that, Seth. Oh, Joe King saw it. There you go. Well, bummer. The Painting Dad. Hey. Wow, with 55 people. Well, I'm sorry, Painting Dad, that I missed you. I hope you guys are doing something interesting. I should be always listening to... It is quiet. I don't know why I didn't notice. Talking to myself, so I don't notice it. I'm glad you checked it. For sure. Thanks, everybody. And thanks for the help. It is weird doing this all by myself. I love having Derek produce us so that Nikki and I can focus on the task at hand. Now, there's a little bit of paint stuck in this cup, but this is a pretty nice airbrush considering, but I mean, it is in the price range of some of the lower end, high-end airbrushes. So, next thing we're gonna do is the gray. I'm only gonna paint one mini from now on because I do not want to have that much paint floating around in here. It really isn't good to breathe paint. So this will be lighter. So the gray, actually I'll probably paint two minis because I want to do this skirt or this, whatever they call it. The four little teeny Tyranid Marines here. Oh, not Marines, figures. Maybe they are Marines, I don't know. So now I'm obviously going to be doing less here. Wow, I shouldn't put that right in there. I should make sure I have to put in a little bit thinner. But I have no idea if this is shaken enough. This is the primers they're great because they really definitely adhere the paint to the miniature much, much better. I used to use, when I was young, I don't even know if they had really a lot of primers, but I used black paint or whatever, white paint from just acrylic paints. And they did an okay job, but they definitely didn't stick as well as dedicated primers, which I discovered later in life. They're worth it. There was a prime, raid, and 2 follows. Wow, thanks, Seth. Let me look. I can see if I go to the... I really need to be on there. Hey, Omicron, there we go. There's somebody earlier. Oh, no, that's not... That was an hour ago. Why we don't get this information? Oh, there we go. Painting Dad. There's a follow from Lance Uppercut. Okay. Hey, and then Annie. Oh, hey Annie, how you doing? Annie is not feeling well. I know that. Hope she's better. We are. We stayed with Annie and Sebastian when we were in Germany before we went to Spiel. It was really fun. We love seeing them and their young, cute little baby. Yeah, this is crazy. Okay, well, let me do this a little more shaking. I don't like, I mean, it's crazy. You're nervous. You don't want to. It's not like you can't fix the problems of having not perfectly mixed paint in your airbrush, but you really want it to be good. And I'm a do it in the cup guy. Some people maybe wisely mix their paint prior to putting into a cup, but I feel I mean, I've had very few issues. Let's see if that'll do it. Oh yeah, I'm plugged in. Thanks, Stuart. I should have been plugged in from the whole time, but I can't remember what I didn't have. Oh, it was the audio. The audio wasn't working. I disconnected myself and only caused troubles. Thanks for helping out, Stuart. So, you know, I mix it in the cup. One of the things I saw on that on the Harder Steenbeck videos was he used a needle that was damaged and made a loop and at the end and mixed his paint that way. I've always just used the end. So I buy these one air brushes and they give you, I don't know what these are. I think they're basically some sort of spacer, and it's just sort of a handle, but I don't know if there's an airbrush that actually uses this handle, but I use this all the time to stir and mix because I got a bunch of them. Okay, so there's gray. So when you're spraying the gray, you spray that at a 45 degree. Just call me Seth. Okay. Huh. I thought Nightbot should say that. Oh, I'm doing Space Marine. That is what I'm working on. These are Marines. These are figures from the Space Marine game. So now what you do, I mean, I think everything is set from last Thursday, so it should be okay. So now what you do is you do the 45 degree angle of the gray pointing down, right? You don't want it, you want it to still be dark on the bottom. I feel you don't need to do a ton of this paint here at this level. I'm having troubles here getting it to come out a lot, though, I'll tell you that. Although maybe I'm just not seeing it. Yeah, there it is. So you don't want to go from underneath. You just want to go at an angle so that it has some lightened stuff. I mean, some people don't even bother with the gray. They just go directly. They go directly to the white, which is completely valid. Yeah, this stuff is no fun. No fun. We'll let that dry for a while. Way more paint coming out than I would normally do, unless it was outside. See me pass out here from the paint. This is bad. Should not do this. It's not that bad, but it's enough that I can smell a little bit of paint. I don't like it. I do have the ventil. I should just turn. Well, it's noisy. This is why I haven't painted on a stream before, because I definitely don't like the noise and the mess. I'm definitely, you know, I spend time to clean the airbrushes when I am done, usually. But as you can see, that one that came with the compressor is not fully cleaned yet. I did sort of clean it out, and it was having a problem actually pushing paint through, so it's all in the body of the airbrush. But I tried to clean it out as best I could with a brush and the nozzle before I came on live. So you can't really see, but what I'm doing is squirting water into here. Now I'll do a little bit of the backflow bubbles. I was getting the bulk of the paint out for that first batch, which is just me squirting the water into the reservoir. Focus. But you can basically get it pretty clean. We're going to wait a few minutes before you spray the white. Hey, Attack Mac, how you doing? Seems like therapy with the paint. I love to paint. I wish I had more time to do it. And I am just building more and more stuff to paint all the time. But yeah, it's bad. Paint's, you know, it's all, any kind of paint is just rough to deal with. You don't want to, you do not want to breathe it. You don't want to eat it. They say non-toxic, but I mean, that's at the basis level. There's things like anti-mold and, you know, you just, ugh, you don't want any of that stuff. There's still quite a bit of paint in there. Now the white is going to be very quick. So now I don't know if you can see it, but it's coming out. There's no gray. It's clear now. So that's pretty good. That's all you really need to do to at least protect yourself between paint coats. We're going to, since I'm airbrushing all this and not painting it, been using our speed painter for weeks now, and as long as it's used with suitable applications, it's loving it. I actually think I used a little bit, I was explaining this on Thursday. This is Attack Mac talking about what we've done. Bolt action U.S. infantry, and with that, and it didn't work well for me though, but 10mm fantasy regiments is amazing with speed paint. So I painted these units with speed paints and contrast paints. It's mostly contrast paint, but the orange, because I didn't have orange, was Speed Paint Fire Giant. I have it here somewhere. Fire Giant Orange. Now this is the 2.0, so it's, I mean, it is different paint. They've done stuff to it to make it not reactivate between, I mean, it's only been a couple of years since they introduced the speed paints, and they've already got a new formulation. The one I was using was the original formulation, I believe, because I did not see the Speed Paint 2.0 marking. Let me show that to you. The Speed Paint 2.0 marking on it. It worked great. I love the color. It's a different color. There is, this color here maybe is similar, and I almost guarantee it probably is. I need to try it. But I love them. I think they look great. This was, you know, an hour and a half's worth of work at most, I think, and I was trying to do several. Hey, there, I hear that. Of course, they don't see what it is. Da-da-da-da. Thanks for the follow, Crucial Blue. I'm only seeing this stuff because Seth has been helpful to me here. Must have followed the painting dad over. Oh, cool. Yeah, I'm sure they rated. So we're doing well here. So yeah, I mean, I did, Sebastian actually primed them black for me, and then I went in and did the Zenithal highlighting. I think I just did white. And then I painted several of them. I was trying, you know, it was somebody else's orange, so I wasn't going crazy, but I worked on like 3 or 4 minis over a couple hours, at least. Actually, I think more than that. And then I continued with them. We did not have the Fire Giant Orange, and Sebastian was able to convince I'm not sure why they were at Essen if they were not selling to the audience, but they had like a paint rack display for Army Painter with fully stocked with paints. And at the very end, he asked him if he could get another bottle, so he got me that one 2.0, and I finished off the bulk of the orange with them before we left, but I didn't get it all done. But anyway, I really love them. I think they look, the speed paints do a really nice job. So I actually have 3 different kinds of paint, brands. We have Army Painter Speed Paint, Fire Giant Orange. This is Aethermatic Blue from Citadel, and I love that color. And then this gun is Vallejo's Express Paint Starship Gray. It's kind of blue. I just thought I'd try it because I actually like using contrast paint, the Black Templar for, Basilicanum Gray for guns. I for whatever reason, I don't like real straight black. I mean, I love it, but on specific uses, I feel like most black is not really that black. I don't know, that's just my observation. But I think this looks pretty good. It's actually got a cool look to it, and turned out great. So I'm going to try to finish those guys at the same. I mean, I had stuff I started when I visited them last year, and I never got it done. So the goal is to get all those done. I really wanted them to be all done before I even got back home. So this airbrush is pretty cool. I have not used it to this extent. I mean, I'm not really using it, but we saw it was doing a pretty fine detail when I was testing it there. So it's pretty neat. This is Gallery, which is spelled G-H-A-L-E-R-I, I think. They're kind of new. I think within the last 6 months or so, they kind of came to the States. And a lot of people did videos. I had seen them, but I hadn't really... I don't remember whose video I watched that I'm like, oh, that looks pretty... It might have been Barbados Rex on YouTube. He does a lot of... He's very excited. But they do a lot of great things. They have a Teflon filter right here at the cup. I don't know if you could use the same ones between Infinity and these. Let's see here. I have a cup that I had Sebastian buy for me in Germany, which was just a good amount cheaper. This is a weird little mini cup, but it's a great idea because if you're just using a little bit of paint, I guess it sort of fits, but I wouldn't use it. So this is just a little teeny protects your threads cup that you just put a little bit of paint in it, and it's one of the things I want to use for let me look at the threads. It's definitely deeper too, so no, it's much finer on this one. So definitely don't get it. I mean, I know some cups can be used between airbrushes, but don't use them between these. You don't want to strip your threads. But yeah, I'll show you on the Infinity here. I'm gonna wait for this to dry. I didn't put as much gray on this, but that's okay, because we're gonna follow up with the white. Now, if you see these are much grayer. But if you look underneath, it's darker underneath still, right? So these are a little bit fine, like probably too much. Again, it doesn't matter because it'll be in the shadows. You just don't want to go crazy on the highlights. So this has, you know, the standard cups here. This is the smallest one that you get with this airbrush. See, it has the Teflon seal. It's very much, these guys are borrowing from a lot of the other manufacturers, this Gallery. But you put this in here, theoretically. I actually haven't put it in yet. Is it going to work? Should, yeah, it does. Wow, doesn't go in very much there. Maybe it's not meant to go in all the way. Except it's not hitting the seal. Or maybe it is, I don't know. Wow, that's pretty funny. Is this not the right one? I don't know if I have the tag for it anymore. Well, maybe it'll fit on the other airbrush that got ordered. When are you doing the next play with the group? Thanks, Marie. We GameNight, definitely Barry's correct. We have them go on Thursdays, but we also stream. We'll be streaming again next. Wow, I don't think that cup fits. Let me look at the threads. Wow, it is only a few. Huh. Most of their stuff is compatible between the stuff, so I'm not sure. But we'll stream on Tuesday. Nikki and I will stream for sure. Excuse me, on Thursday evening. So if you're in Europe, it's probably too late. You have to watch us on the follow-up. But all those streams, we sort them. They come out in our live page on YouTube, and they are also on Twitch if you want to look at them afterwards. But they're on our live page, and you can find them. And then we actually sort them into other playlists. So we have a live playlist and a paint playlist. Wow, I don't know that fits. Or did I foul up the threads? No, it doesn't look like it. That's funny. Let's see here. I could have picked the wrong one. It's certainly possible. Evolution Infinity. That's the one I got, so something's not right. Micro Cup. Well, was I trying to put in the wrong airbrush? No. It is the correct one. Weird. They actually don't thread very much, so maybe I'm just not understanding that. But anyway, I like it because you're protecting the threads, and so if you clean it out properly, boy, it's not easy to put in there though. If you're doing it correctly, yeah, it does look like it seals. You could just put a little bit of paint in. You don't have as much to clean out. And it also controls how much paint you put into the airbrush, so you're not overdoing it. I should be putting that back into the box for that, but I will put it in the bag for now. But yeah, it's like a $7 item or something like that. And maybe $12 was where I was looking. I'm like, well, I'm gonna have him. I had him order a needle and nozzle set that was going to be cheaper from Germany, and so yeah, I'm not really. I was hoping to paint actually the miniatures here. How about some trivia for you today? Okay, Seth. I think, Seth, you've done some trivia with us before. Some fun stuff. So people in the Twitch chat, if you want to follow along that Seth's got going on there. Yeah. Okay, well, let's get the white paint mixed up. Now, these are just... So the other thing is actually spraying primers is a little bit more intense, because I think the resins are different, and it's one reason why I don't like the smell of it. I don't have as much of a problem when I'm spraying color, standard colors. And I mean, I still, again, the only time I've ever really painted, I have them sitting right here. The only time I've ever painted on the desk here without a mask or anything was working on this one that I had already painted by hand. And then I just did the hair, the hair here, the flames or whatever. I put a little bit of like glow, so I sprayed white and then I put some of the red on it, and I did some stuff down here. I did all that with the airbrush, this one specifically, and was spraying the tiniest amount of paint out. Obviously, you're going to have more control when you don't have so much air coming out. And pick a category. Oh, I don't know. Maybe somebody else. Ooh, Battlefleet Gothic. Wow, I need to try that. Attack Mac, part of the issue might be that are you airbrushing your underpaints? Now, you don't have to. I don't know if I can easily find them here. I might have them. I did do some dry brushed underpainting for Zenithal Highlight. I don't see them here. But I did Iron Man and Black Widow, and somebody's sending me something and it's not getting the right address. Gosh, that can disturb me. But yeah, I dry brushed it, and I did Iron Man and Black Widow. And Iron Man, I did a deal where I dry brushed with metallics underneath the contrast paint. That turned out neat. But you don't have to do that. Rattle can spray Zenithal and dry brush on top of that. Slap chops down. Well, that works totally. It is a skill to use speed paints. You do need to apply them wet. Like, it is that one thick coat instead of two thin coats thing. But I don't worry about it either. I also just go and do another coat of it. One of the things I do is I use the technical medium, contrast medium, to, it's not in focus. I use this to actually thin it down if I don't want it to be too intense right away. Meaning, with one coat I can actually build it up. So I almost always do it on flesh, unless I want dark flesh. And I've used it many times on dark flesh, and it's turned out wonderfully. I'm trying to move this bottle. It should just stay right here. But an undercoat is definitely, it is neat. That's what I've actually, so this one here was my first speed painted mini, or contrast painted mini. Where they had just come out, and we bought some and tried it out. Scott, I was trying to get Scott to paint, this was the first attempt. He ended up painting stuff more later. But I did this in like an hour, and you just put it on quickly, And this was actually prior to me even using contrast medium. I don't think I bought it till later when I realized, or I might have bought it, but I didn't realize, like, the paints. I don't know what the heck I was thinking, because, you know, I was disappointed with their flesh tones, and then I went to the store, actually maybe to buy the flesh tone. I can't remember. I might have already had it. And I saw that it showed a spectrum, like, oh, duh, they want you to use the contrast medium to thin that out and to lighten it up. So it still has the same sort of effects, even though it is thinned out a little bit. You know, it still does the same sort of effect, but you can build it up a little bit. One of the things about, people love to use these to do, you use speed paints to airbrush, which is pretty cool. Okay, we're asking to pick a category. Well, let's pick science. I don't know that I'll do, I sometimes do okay. I did some board game trivia before. Choose wisely. Okay, Seth. So I'm going to have a much less of the white. Yeah, here I am. This will be the only time I ever airbrush any primers on stream. Hey, look at that. See this? I really don't like these bottles. They leak all the time. Has this got the split? I thought I put a new, nope, it's got a split. All these kind of eyedropper bottles can split. I don't think you can see it. But it is one of the things I don't like about eyedropper bottles, but if you don't over tighten, and you don't really have to tighten it too much unless you're traveling, I imagine, with your paints. If you don't over tighten, then it will do better. I am just an over tightener for sure. Oh, I'm putting paint in there and I did not put any thinner in. I mean, water is a thinner too. You can put a little bit of drops, a couple drops of water too, and that will help. It's just all this stuff, you know, I'm using all kinds of colors and, you know, more solventy kind of things. I don't, the smell of the thinner isn't great either. And so airbrushing them is just not wonderful. We're going to try to do this very delicately. Hey, I just put paint on pants that I don't want to put paint on. Oh, well. I'm not a big black jeans guy anyway. It's because it's a mess here. So let's stir it back up with my little stir stick. That's a lot more white than we're going to need. Well, I might do more than one coat. It is definitely potentially needed. Okay. So always spray before you, if you put solvent in. Now I did mix it, but it isn't necessarily great. But always put spray before you put it on your miniature, because airbrush thinner probably wouldn't be great on a miniature. Oh, I'm doing this at the angle. Don't do it at an angle, do it directly above. I will come back in and do a little bit of airbrushing to like feature their face or something a little tiny bit. I really like airbrushing miniatures. I've done it for so long. Ooh, it's bad, it's bubbling up. Did I get, well, this paint could be a little, I mean, you know, the white is a tough one for me. It always seems to dry quickly. Wow, this is definitely a problem here. Well, we get to witness it in real time here. I don't know what is going on with the paint. It's got to be the paint. So it might have a chunk. Could have been a chunk from the previous paint. I mean, I didn't let anything dry. Huh. This is another reason why not spray it. You really don't want to, you have to like overspray stuff to really get, it's doing it every time. Well, I'm going to do it lighter and more quickly. Wow, it doesn't want to do it in, also you know what, I used ink on one of those when I did I forgot about that. I sprayed ink when I did those Hearthkyn Warriors. Wow, this is kind of a bummer. Like, what's happening with the airbrush? It could be something to do with the consistency of the paint too. White is different than the other colors for sure. I thought white had smaller particles. Okay, well that's enough. I'm gonna have to deal with that airbrush later. Not sure what, well, could be the pigment. Anyway, well, at least I did some airbrushing. People wanted to see it. I've been very averse to doing it. I don't see it hanging in the air around me, so I don't feel like I've done too much. But it definitely is stinky, and I do not love the smell of the solvents. Because, you know, it isn't really, it's water, and you can thin it with water, but there's other stuff going on. Well, let's clean this. I will say this though, I mean, it definitely, I feel this is like the best cups I've ever cleaned. It does a really nice job. Well, let me airbrush out the color. So we'll do that in here. So it's working. I mean, clearly, I think the paint was probably not thin enough, which they're the same paints. So yeah, you need to like pull your trigger back. When you're doing this, you're cleaning it out. You want to make sure that this is like the final cleaning I'm going to do here today, right? Because I'm not going to do any more. But you want to make sure that you've got the needle going back and forth, trying to get as much paint off of everything as you can. So it has a little filter here. You can see maybe some mist coming out from the atomized water now. Yeah, I've not cleaned this airbrush a lot, so. Maybe should have a white napkin or towel here. Well, it's white, so how would I know? It does seem to be just water now, so that's good. And then we'll just do a little quick teardown of the front end. So a lot of people feel, I was telling Sebastian, because he is a go guy when it comes to working on stuff, and his airbrush needed some help. So I cleaned it up for him and explained a few things to him. He did not know about bubbling back and all that stuff. Let's do a tiny bit of that before I give up here. Pretty sure that we've got it. Yeah, it looks pretty clear in here. I don't know if you can see it, but there we go. So yeah, it's pretty clear. Not quite though. There's still a little bit of pigment in there. Let's do a little bit more. That looks better. Yep. So yeah, airbrush is not as clean and simple as using a rattle can. There's not much. You know, rattle can's great. It's another solvent that's even more horrifying to me, and you definitely don't spray inside. I don't feel any spray inside is good though, unless you have a respirator. I do in the house, and I probably should have put it on. So I will generally clean it out with the napkins and towels. I like using paper towels and splitting it. You know, we have like 2-layer. See, now there's some dried paint on there. We have the 2-layer towels that you can split them apart, and then I make it into a point. And wow, I got paint back here. You're not supposed to be getting paint back here. I don't know what I did. So yeah, you can see there's a good amount of paint on the front there. You definitely, in this case, you know, it's coming out and there's no paint on the needle, so I guess we did a good job on getting it off of there. But there's some dry tip, although it's coming off. Wow, these are pretty well polished needles too. There are some that are not that great of a job, of the brands I like. So I have a bottle of acrylic, a bottle of alcohol that I use to just dip the needle in to really get it clean. I should look at that one. I was saying I saw black on it. One of the things I saw on the video, which I never, on the Harder Steenbeck, he recommended dragging the needle across the back of your hand, and you would see if you can tell if there's any problems with your needle. You're going to feel if there's any inconsistencies, and then it means you can sort of straighten needles. I've never had a lot of luck with it necessarily. I just stabbed myself very lightly, but I stabbed myself. This rolls off very easily. But yeah, take that off. Quick disconnect great, especially if you're using multiple airbrushes, because you have this connector here that connects to the hose, making it very simple to switch between them without having to thread it, and I like it a lot. So yeah, the body of this, there is no more breaking down of this, because this is where the air comes in, this is where the air comes in around. The paint comes through this center portion here, and the air is around it. It does seem like this does a pretty good job of atomizing the paint. This is the fluted 8-channel thing that they have here on this airbrush. I like it. Now this is not as fine of a needle as some of the ones I have. Like I can see inside that one a little more clearly. Let's see here. How long does a solar eclipse last? Huh. I mean, it's the point of it is probably very brief. You know, like the perfect point of it. Thanks for the follow, Degrundenator. Thanks so much for the follow. Boy, I don't know. I'm sorry I wasn't looking, Stuart. I know it's actually pretty brief. It's like a couple minutes at most, right? At its zenith, where it's, because we were not in the best path of seeing the eclipse, but we did get outside and on Saturday and took pictures and everything and had a good time. Nikki's definitely into astronomy and all that stuff, so she she was forgetting that it had. I'm like, we got to get up. 7.5 minutes. Okay, well there you go. I knew it wasn't very long because I mean, it looked similar to us the whole time because, you know, we did not have the full. We were not in the Texas, I think, in Nevada. Had you know, more clear, where that you had just the ring of fire, is what they call it. The ring of fire. What color is the sunset on Mars? Huh. White? I don't know though. I mean, it's the atmosphere, right? They don't have as much atmosphere as we do. I was when we were flying out of Germany the other day, last week, Tuesday? Yeah, last Tuesday. It was very orange. It was real pretty. That was actually sunrise though. Hey, DeGruin Denethor. Hey, I can read that more clearly. It's much more. It was all caps, I think. Thanks so much for joining us and for following. So yeah, airbrushes are work, right? You have to care for them. You have to. No, I said how easy this was to clean. It's still got some stuff in there. That was from the bubbles too. Although it's doing a pretty good job of me just working on it with my wet towel or napkin here. Definitely better than most. Like I absolutely have to soak them or use a solvent. I might need a little bit of solvent here, but so you can see here, there's still some remnants here of the paints. But let's see here, I got alcohol. Let's just give it a little tiny bit amount and see what I do here. I don't really like using a lot of alcohol on stuff. I'm definitely more organized when I have it on either in the compressor, in the spray booth behind me, or yeah, I mean that's clean. So that does a very nice job. I'm actually surprised that there isn't more. Maybe the harder Steenbeck has. I mean, as I say, they seem to be imitating some of the better airbrushes out there on this. Then they have. This is not even their highest one. It's the highest one that they have available right now, as far as quality that they're working on. They have one more called the Supreme. I think this is called the. Well, I can tell you right here. This is called the Gallery. This shows the range that it sprays, which is pretty great. So extreme detail to wide, but not extra wide. But this is the Ace, not Pro, but Ace. They have a Supreme coming. They also have a great diagram of the parts in the airbrush, although they do call something pretty, what did they say here? Oh, it is fighting, male fighting. Noozle, that was the one I loved. Noozle instead of nozzle. Needs 2 Z's, not 2 O's. But that really cleans, like that's the best cleaning cup I've ever had. Wow, that is really nice. I do have an ultrasonic cleaner, but I've actually really never used it for much. I suppose it's probably good for deep cleaning. Somebody was saying once that they had a airbrush like in this area broke down on like on a Sparmax or something from the vibrating. You know, it's probably a little too violent ultimately. These are very delicate. There's also you can use what they call a ream, and I've used them like once or twice, but I always felt that it was risky because you could be shaving off metal. You know, these are pretty finely engineered, and so it's not a great idea to do it. But the Harder Steenbeck video I watched yesterday, there's like a care of your airbrush thing that they went over. They're like, as a last resort, you can do stuff with, you can do those types of things. But like they were saying, which I've always never done, as far as breaking it down. Definitely don't break it down completely, unless you have to. So this goes. It's a very, very simple airbrush, actually, ultimately. But I don't have it completely cleaned here. Hey, Chad, how you doing? Wow, this is going to come out. There you go. Chad bought a, I think it's made by Badger, but he bought a airbrush from Reaper, which I will tell you this, I believe it was made by Badger, and it uses the standard connector. That is something I haven't mentioned today. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here is a Badger airbrush, and this has a special quick disconnect because it has a very fine connection. And the funny thing is Badger doesn't even make hoses that fit this anymore. I mean, they do with an adapter. They just use a standard hose. This is a standard connector. There's actually 3 that I know of. There might be more. The Badger and Thayer Chandler, which is owned by Badger now, uses this as well. Pache uses a different one that's between these two, I believe. I've never actually owned a Pache airbrush. I had friends that had them, but I didn't really pay attention to that stuff at that time. This is a standard connector. But with this quick disconnect, you have, they all fit. So here's the one on the gallery that came with the airbrush. And so some of the airbrushes will actually give you this. It's like $7 or something for one of these. Come on, focus. But they all work similarly, and they quickly disconnect, and they seal very well. So it's a great way if you're using multiple airbrushes. I have done that where I've used a more heavy type of airbrush coater, you know, that sprayed heavy, and then I had a fine, well, I don't know that I actually cleaned this properly either, because I was having troubles getting it to work. I need to look at that. Yeah, I mean, well, that cup looks pretty good. Again, like I said over there, that looks weird though. I don't know if that was a plating issue. So I think original Badger, I don't have an old harder Steenbeck. They used nickel to plate their airbrushes, and nickel can come off, and chrome is much, much more durable. Yeah, that is just in there. So that is like a plating and milling issue, I think, on that one. I mean, these are very nice airbrushes as well. These are in the $150 range to $200, I guess. I really like that one as well. I just don't need they have very high-end Iwatas that Micron that are, you know, $400 or $500. I used my Eclipse for the base coats and swap it to the Badgers for detail, various size highlights. Nice. Oh yeah, so you have an Iwata as well. Fits in 2 needle sizes. Huh. I'm intrigued by that. I won't be buying it though. I can't buy any more. I never bought a, I've thought about it, Grex. You know, they were kind of the first one I saw to be using the trigger like a spray gunner handle. Oh, you know, of course, I forgot about this airbrush. They said there might be paint inside of it because they test it extensively before sending it out. So that might be why there was more paint on here than I thought. I'm sure most of the manufacturers that are really good will do that, because they want to make sure they're good. Especially since I've had to, you know, they're not cheap. And these are okay. It's interesting. So what Eclipse, you have the same Eclipse I have, Chad, the Eclipse HPCS. I mean, I feel it does it's not the most detail-oriented airbrush, but it does a pretty good job. I mean, I don't have any terrible airbrushes. I even have for years actually, I was using a Harbor Freight airbrush to do my undercoats. It was built very much like, our Harbor Freight has a new design now that is probably more like, I haven't bought one. It's only $26. I may buy one just to check it out, but I really don't need any more airbrushes. I've crossed that threshold, no more. I used it for the base coat, and then I used a standard Badger, not standard, what do you call it? The our Anthem. I think I have an Anthem which is a gravity feed airbrush. So my original Badger and the one I was talking about from Harbor Freight, you know, those are like $20 airbrushes. That was actually not a bad airbrush, but I never bought another one to actually do the, never bought another one to actually have as parts, and I actually had fouled up one part of mine right away. You can't see anything I'm doing here. But yeah, you can see there's paint still in the needle. Now, that could be from the manufacturer. You should never really force anything into it. You don't, and this is just a toothpick, but I'm just trying to get as much as I can out of that. I will also run a paper towel, like I was saying. This is actually not a great paper towel, it's a napkin. And it's a little too fibrous. I actually prefer some decent paper towels when I do this. See, this is a manageable needle, nozzle. I'll show you the one that on the, I love this airbrush, but man, it is the tiniest of parts. And I love the bigger, because they have, for example, the Anthem has a larger needle like this. This is the part that you pull out. It doesn't thread in or anything. It's compression fit as you tighten the nozzle connections down to it. I feel like the music's kind of loud. For sure. I mean, you can get the parts. I used to be able to get the parts for the Badgers at Michael's and stuff like that. They don't have them as much. We don't go to... Ooh, what was that? That was an airbrush. That ain't good. It was the airbrush, the Galleria, but it didn't seem to have a problem there. Didn't have a needle in it, but I don't like to knock them down. I'll tell you that. So yeah, Michael's used to carry Badger. Not anymore. If anybody carries anything, it's mostly because Hobby Lobby has Iwata. Iwata is very popular, and they're good, but I only have one. So, you put the needle on this one. I don't know. But yeah, parts is important. Parts are important. You know, I just dropped that one airbrush. If there was needles in it, then it would have been probably messed up. Interesting. I didn't realize that actually went through, and I just pulled it through, and I shouldn't have known. So I assembled this with the nozzle in the fitting here. I've only done this once before, so that goes inside. That's the nozzle inside of the nozzle cap, or whatever they call it. Let me see, what do they call it in here? They call it, there's a lot of different names. Nozzle cap, or nozzle cap, according to this one. And then I put the needle into that, which is, I'm trying to not do well here. Wow. I'm wearing the wrong kind of glasses. I actually shouldn't be wearing any glasses to do this, because I'm not doing well. There we go. And then, you don't want to force anything when you have these things like this. You will mess up the nozzle. And then this is the needle cap. This protects the needle, and you can airbrush without it, as I was saying before. Huh. I haven't really looked at this needle very carefully. I mean, it's smooth. It's definitely polished well. Anyway, so that's assembled. I feel like there's paint in there still. Shouldn't be, though. Now, this is, you know, you just build up paint and it could cause problems. You want it to be clean because it's, you know, it's coming out of the nozzle and it's atomized at that point. So you don't want to build up to clog anything, but for the most part, it's not really a hassle to care for these. It's what I kind of love about the ones like the Harder and Steenbeck here that has the, you know, this is very easy to clean it. Really cool. And Badger has some like this too. I really like the Badger. Badger's had, you know, years and years and years. I think 60 some years of airbrush manufacture, and they keep innovating. They keep doing cool stuff. So there you go. That's that. So this is the nozzle inside the Badger Renegade Pro, maybe, or no, Renegade Extreme, I think. And this is similar to the one that's in some of the others, like the Anthem, I believe. I can't remember. They all confuse me because the Badger is the most variety. So now I'm going to show you the horror story that is the Sotar. So let's get to focus. So it's this one actually, I have different caps, needle caps and stuff. This one is, hey gosh darn it, loses focus real quick. It's very small. And now you see there's the silver. It actually is not easy to come off, but there's the needle now without the nozzle. And here's the nozzle. It is teeny. It is tiny, tiny grain of, you know, like a grain of rice, smaller than a grain of rice. It is not, it's delicate, right? I don't know the best way to clean these. So mostly and that's why I'm having a problem. So maybe I didn't clean it right. And I'm not going to run a ream through it, so I'll probably soak it in a little bit of alcohol and see if that solves the problem. I'm not sure what's going on because it's much more delicate as far as, you know, the reservoir is big. You can actually get to the needle area pretty easily, but something is clogged up and it wasn't working earlier, and that's frustrating. I've loved this airbrush. I've had it for probably 5 years now, 4 years, 5 years. I think I bought it in 2018. Maybe even 2017. I love it. It's a great and a nice detail, and you know, does a great job. But boy, it was not working this morning, and I was kind of frustrated. Like, what did I do? Anyway, I think you have that risk with all airbrushes. This one today has been pretty great. These look pretty awesome. I might do a little bit more. I don't know though. We'll see. Because, you know, this leg is tilting down, so it's darker, and then this leg is up, so it's lighter. I think I did it pretty well. I love them, though. So I don't know if that was in focus before, but these are the swarms or something like that. Hey, thanks for the follow, Bice. Busy Tut 4867 Zana. Thanks for the follow. I'm working on these miniatures for Space Marine, the board game. These are all Termagant Tyranids. Here's I don't know if I showed the painted ones. Well, as well, I think I'm almost done for the day. It's 12:15. I will show you what I worked on previously for this game. We're going to try to, I don't know that we're actually going to film this game though. We're probably going to film the Warhammer introductory set, which I also have that GW gave me when I was at Essen. This is kind of like it really is a quicker way into the hobby. I mean, I'm actually excited about Space Marine because it's, you know, one Marine versus a bunch of Tyranids. But I've heard that it's probably a little bit more challenging, so we'll probably do this Warhammer introductory set. It has 5 Space Marines, 10, I believe, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus the little swarm. So 10 termagants, gives you paints, gives you nippers, gives you a paintbrush, dice, measuring rulers, all that stuff. Yeah, so you can see back here. So it's pretty cool. I mean, now they're using, in this kit, they're giving you standard, these are the paints right here. They're giving you standard base and layer paints, or are they all base paints? They're all base paints. And that's cool. You know, this is, I actually sort of replicated this purple with another purple, this one here. It doesn't seem very closed. this is Luxian purple that's a contrast. So I'm having fun doing the contrast stuff. I think it's a great way to paint your minis and get people going more quickly. As your skills get better, you can do, you know, use the standard acrylic paints, which are great. I mean, I've used them for years. But once contrast came into my life, they've been just really awesome. I don't think this is actually a complete one. I mean, it's close. This is the one that's sort of done. But they're neat. I still need to do the base. I got to figure out what I'm going to do on that. I mean, I'll probably just do more of this, but I'm sort of disappointed the results of the texture, the cracking. But I'll do another coat. I should actually see if anybody says anything about like making sure that it's okay. And then as I said earlier, I painted this Lieutenant Titus. Worked on him. I got a little bit of a mess there on that freehand on that U, Ultramarines U. But yeah, this turned out pretty cool. And you know, this is a couple of hours of work maybe. You know, I do most of this stuff talking and stuff. But it looks pretty awesome, and it'll look great on the table. I will do a little bit more to the base. It's the one thing I kind of really love about Warhammer Underworlds and some of the other quick kind of things that they do. This has white paint on there. What was I doing there? Or did it get, I don't know. But you know, they've got these textured, these bases with that are fully detailed. Let's see if it has something else. Oh wait, these guys are great here. These are some Stormcast Eternals, which are part of the Age of Sigmar, but like this, you know, paving here and the curb, all this is just amazing. It is so nice. Now, it's now giving me no options, right, to do different details for the base, but I really like them. I think that there's some really nice designs. This one's pretty cool too. You know, the skull and the briar vine, the dirt, all that stuff is molded into the base. And I really like it. I think they really look great. But it is fun to base miniatures, I'll tell you that. I've done some fun stuff in the past. Oh, here's one. It's not really, hey, there's some of that grass. I should just peel it off of this. So there you go. This is what that should look more like. Maybe I did a better job of putting it on thickly. I thought I was putting it on thick, but who knows? I did it at the end of the night last night. But yeah, you put these little tufts of, you know, synthetic, it's like polyester or something like that, grass, that look pretty cool. But yeah, this is like kitty litter. This little piece came with the miniature, had its own little mounting hole. But yeah, that's kitty litter. Fresh kitty litter, not used. But yeah, it's fun. You know, there's a lot of options to do. Thanks, Joe King. I love painting stuff. I really do love painting it. I wish I was even better. I'm getting better all the time, you know, trying to put the effort into, you know, Sebastian makes the case that you should have a little paint station, which I do have, and, you know, just put it like on the dinner table or something, and, you know, as long as you're not making a mess. Now, he's the king of he could make a big mess, but he's actually very good about keeping things clean. And his workstation itself is very, very messy. But he's like, I mean, I used to do that, but I actually got where I didn't like it because I just left it there. You know, I mean, even when I didn't paint, and I feel you should, you know, this is meant to do the same in here where I actually just like hanging out with Nikki, though. That's the problem. You know, she doesn't necessarily want to come in here to work, and she likes to watch television when she's like crocheting and things like that, and I'm not a huge television watcher. Man, I really like these sculpts. They're really cool, and you know, they're not the same. I mean, there's going to be some repetition between the total number of them, but like, are these no, these are not the same either. Well, that's my head you're seeing. These are not the same. Huh. These are all kind of different. I wonder how many different sculpts they have here. So that's cool, you know? Very, very nice looking miniatures. This pose here is pretty cool. I mean, I was watching a video last week where they were criticizing this kind of pose, like leaping off of a piece of terrain. I like it. I think it's fun. It's, you know, the only issue, of course, is now these are push fit. All of these are push fit. You don't actually have to even glue them. But the issue is you can't change them. Some of the older ones, so I did these here. This is another push fit miniature. These, when I have a guy here holding a gun. The arms are separate, and the weapon, I believe, is also, I don't know though for sure on this one. It could be though, let me look. Because you know, you have options to change your guns out. Here's one. So, you know, this one had, like, I think the hand, I don't know though, I feel like, I'm pretty sure the gun was separate. So it's like, there's probably a glue point here. I don't know though, I don't feel like that was the one. Because I got more and more, and it was having more and more trouble. And what I ended up doing was gluing the arms. Generally what they do is they have like a piece that this hand glues into this portion of the gun here, and then this on the back here just, you know, connects at that point. And so I had to glue all these pieces together, then do them on here, because I couldn't really get it all to hold. If I use super glue, it'd probably be better, but these are definitely not push fit. But you have more options. Number one, you can change the weapons out, but you can also change their positioning a little bit. Like the head on this one, it's just a single head that you can, it's got a ball on the, you know, on the bottom and a cup on the inside, and you put it in there and you can change the orientation of the head. And that's all neat to me, you know, like really, really cool. I do wish I had like pictures of the sprue before I did this. But it's just harder work, and push fit is really, really nice. But if you're just painting minis, you know, you don't have to do anything. There's plenty of games out there that have fully assembled minis. I love, normally I'm painting Marvel United. I love those minis. How's Candace doing? She said, well, Candace has been away with us, and she also went another day away, weekend away, because she was at the GMT thing. But she was getting the gear to paint. Yeah, so for example, this is these are some of the Marvel United minis, and these are all assembled. Now, one of the things I make the mistake of doing is not thinking about cleaning the miniature. Like there's mold lines where the pieces of the mold meet, and you need to clean them up. And if you know, when these are built, I don't think about it. Here's a fine example. I looked at it, oh, it looks good, but that doesn't look good right there. I will probably clean that up. The arm here, I think I painted this one I grabbed it in a rush, and I knew I was probably you know, hurt myself. Now you can see this is already glued. These were put together prior, and you know, you probably should fill those gaps. I don't know. I'm not that worried about these miniatures. I think they look pretty great as it is, you know. This one had, I did clean it up a little bit. He looks great painted. But again, my brain is thinking, oh, I don't need to clean this stuff. But they're fun to paint. I'm sure everybody's got games with minis in there that they haven't painted. So that's where Candace got started and excited. So she's buying the parts for that. She just doesn't have it all together yet. Where's that airbrush? Oh, here it is. And I believe this cup belongs to that. Nope, it does not. No, it does not. Huh. Is it for the HP? Yeah, this is this one here. Not HP. It's not Hewlett Packard. The Iwata. I like the Iwata airbrushes too. They're nice. They're, you know, they don't. How do they do? I think they're. Let's look at it since it's not being used. I think they have a better connection to this spring assembly here that is that controls your airbrush. Yeah, so what they've done here is they have this mounted, which is actually helpful. I have my Badger airbrushes, I think almost all of them, if not all of them, have that piece separate. And I gotta tell you, that's a pain in the rear end. I mean, basically I use a pair of tweezers and I just hold it into place. But yeah, you can use this to adjust the tension of how much spring tension it takes to pull the trigger back. I don't know if this one does it though. The Badgers definitely do. Time roller, cool. I'll go over there in a few minutes. Thanks, Seth. Man, I'm sorry I missed your trivia. Trivia number 3 is posted. Let's see here. I've been just too much. What is the largest bone in the human body? Joe King says femur. I don't know. It probably is the largest one. What about the skull though? Miniac is live. Oh wow. Might raid Miniac too. He's another painter. I actually watch his videos. I don't watch him as much. I only think it's because he's just not making his videos as many videos as he used to. I like his advice, and he does paint more. I love Adam. Adam does his painting mostly on his streams, but he used to show more stuff on his videos. His weekly videos are more about, well, his streaming's weekly, but it's more about like subjects, you know. And I love all that, but I actually love seeing techniques because I just, you know, I'm self-taught on a lot of stuff. I never had my Daniel, who was in here earlier. He was friends with Alf before I met him, and Alf had been painting for years, and then they all got back into it at one point, and that's what got me into it. And Alf was just an amazing painter. He's a super talented, creative guy. And I just wanted to, I mean, we came out and hung out all the time, but I really wanted to just know his, some of his techniques. You know, I'm not like, he was, you know, part of that is like, they don't want to share everything. Let's see what this looks like. I might be making a mistake here. But I love to learn, and videos have really made that a lot easier. And Miniac is one of the guys I watched. I mean, Adam is the first guy I think I watched a lot of on YouTube. And then Miniac does really nice work and nice videos and fun. He's funny. And I think Ninjon's pretty great too. They're friends. And I mean, Adam and they know all those guys. They're all back in Michigan, Wisconsin area, I believe, and Minnesota. But yeah, they're all good, and they all have good advice. Ninjon's actually been doing some pretty cool stuff lately. He's done a lot of painting things and talking about materials and paints and stuff. Airbrush, as a matter of fact, he's the one that did the video about that little compressor that came with the little airbrush, which is right here. This is the airbrush that came with it. It's okay. It was not working today, and this is what started the whole craziness. I actually then went to the Badger Sotar, which did not work as well, and I'm like, what is going on here? But I also did not run paint through it, which water. You should run water through it right away. Make sure at least that part's working before you start putting paint in. I was in too much of a rush. So this isn't a bad airbrush. It's just, you know, and it's borrowing a lot of details from other. Let's see what this one looks like here. Actually, oh, you know what? Though I did not clean this properly, so I do not want to do that yet. Because I need to clean it out inside the nozzle here. Inside the body of the brush here and get the paint. You can see there's still color in there. So I will probably need to run that through the compressor and all that stuff. Now, no paint was coming out, so it shouldn't really be that bad. Maybe I can just rinse it, and I probably can't do it with the airbrush. Just keep rinsing the cup out. But I honestly feel you should spend a little bit of money on an airbrush. The downer is, of course, most everything is bought online, so you can't really see what an airbrush, how it works for you. I really love Badger, but today was a little finicky and frustrating. Their airbrushes can be as little as $60 for some of their higher end ones, or $65. I think I recommended John. Actually, I recommended John, who helps run our conventions, BG's conventions, to buy this one. And they kind of the people that Ken, who works at is the owner of Badger laughed, and he's right. He probably shouldn't get this one because that tip is crazy. I wasn't thinking in those terms, and definitely if you're new, you do not want that tip. Let me show you the Badger. I have the extreme. I have the extreme version of the one he got. Is that right? No, that's a Spirit. So many airbrushes. Oh yeah, so it was a Patriot. Not maybe his is a Patriot Anthem, and I have the Extreme Patriot. You know, it's different. It's crazy how many different types of mechanisms, you know, arrangements they have. So this one, and you know, as I was showing you, I tested earlier. This one has a problem with leaking here, and I have put it on there. You can see, oh, exactly. This is the same kind of large one as this one had too. But I love it. It's much easier to clean. It's larger and more manageable as far as handling it. And this is a good airbrush too. I have not had, even though there is a bit of leaking here, because this is a what they call, I think, a PAC adjustment, pressure adjustment. It looks like it's plastic, but it is a piece of metal, and it leaks, and you don't really want any leaking in your nozzle. It kind of messes with the control, the flow, the control that you have of your paint flow, and but it's a nice airbrush. It's great. It's got, actually really like these plastic caps. I mean, it's smooth in there. I got to tell you, I haven't really had a lot of problems with this one either, I suppose. But that one is just like the easiest clean I've ever had, as far as cleaning your cup out. You know, people that you're looking at my airbrushes, they all look clean. I am meticulous about it because I don't know. They cost a lot of money. When I first got my first one, you know, it had to have been like $75 or something like that maybe back then. And I was really happy my parents bought it. They actually bought it, I think, independent of me asking. Like, they figured I would appreciate that, and I love it. And it has gotten me to do a lot of different stuff in my life that I wouldn't necessarily do. You know, I mean, I'm a big fan of creative stuff. Justice shall be done. Thanks for the follow. So yeah, see, this has the little, I'm just wrapping up the stream here, but, or close to. This has the little S connection to translate the trigger action to the needle action, whereas the one from Harder Steenbeck has it integrated. This piece is integrated to the trigger. It's pretty cool. Now, these have an issue where it takes a little bit of movement to get them going, which is not great. The fix was a little teeny bit of PTFE of a gasket, and you put it in there, and it moves to translating moving the needle more quickly. I'm not using this one yet as a detail airbrush, which I will be using it as a detail airbrush. It's one of the reasons why I bought it. And I think that paint flow is, you know, important to know and understand. So, I don't know. There's a lot of great stuff out there. You don't have to go crazy to get, you know, spend too much to get something good, but it's definitely worth it to spend a little bit more, I think. Definitely watch some videos, see what people say. Let's cut to the other camera. And of course, I'm not in that window anymore. Hey, I'm there anyway. Okay, cool. Let me put my glasses back on, my other glasses, so I can see things. It's worth it to spend a little bit of money on your airbrush. And, you know, a compressor, the one thing that they actually, that was mentioned on the Harder Steenbeck video was you definitely don't want it to pulse. I have not, you know, like, without a tank, your airbrush, it's a piston, and usually just one piston. And my old compressor, I believe it was like tan and red, was the first one my parents got me. And it had pulsing, like you would see it. Now I was airbrushing, it was further away. My grandfather ended up buying me a tank that was, you reloaded with nitrogen. So, you know, it had zero compression, it had zero pulsing, and it didn't have moisture condensation either. but you had to refill that thing, and I only ever did that like 3 times. So it was not simple, and I ended up going right into a compressor anyway. But he, you know, he was a creative guy and architect, and knew a lot about that stuff as well. But I was already established somewhat as an airbrush painter myself, you know, knowing what I was doing. Boy, I have this phone here that I'm using to like track the conversation, and it's not holding in there. But yeah, there's you know, there are lots of good options for compressors in the $70 to $100 range that'll do a good job. Spray Gunner has something called No Name. I can't remember, but it has a tank on it. You also want, ultimately, I feel you want something that doesn't that keeps a little shut off. Like this one did not constantly run because it doesn't have a tank. It's only when you press the trigger that it actually runs. But other ones will not even make any noise. It'll just air escaping because it has a tank. I actually do have a compressor that has a large tank on it and is pretty quiet. So you don't constantly have it rattling in your ears. But expensive, right? It's $16, $15 for a can of primer for minis if you use spray can, $20 if you buy GW, Citadel. So, I mean, in the end, I think you save money. I also feel like you're a little bit friendlier to the environment. You're not using so many, I mean, the propellants are different. They're no longer terrible for the earth, but it's also a lot of inner tubes. That's absolutely true, Joe King. You know what? I actually should look and see who we should raid. Inner tubes is a really good idea. I had friends that did that as well in college. Where is my cursor? Let's see what we got here. Oh, you know what? We don't have. We're gonna have to raid. Oh, Time Roller's only got 6 people. We're gonna raid Time Roller. We don't have Miniac. We don't follow him on our. I don't even know how you find other people without doing. I mean, Derek and Scott do this more than I do. But we'll raid Time Roller. Well, I only got. There's not a ton of you out here. I probably bored most of you to death. But if you can on Twitch, if you'd like to, I have this running, which is a bad idea. On Twitch, if you want to join in, please do. On YouTube, I'm sorry, this is the end of the day here for us. Hey, Tommy K. Let's see here. I want to see what he's saying. I have like a heart here. Oh, best rules explanation. Thanks, Tommy K. Well, we definitely have some great folks in our teaching loop. Nikki's getting really good. Rusty's great. Aaron is great. Dave is great. Deborah's doing pretty good as well when she's done it. And we have definitely a great crew. I'm okay, but I'm too distracted with all the project stuff. You know, like running things. So I don't like to teach. I can't focus on the stuff I need to focus on. Anyway, you guys have a great week. We'll be back on Thursday evening, 5:30 p.m. PDT, where Nikki and I'll do probably a Halloween spooky game or something. It is. We have not done anything, although we did horrified Greek monsters. That was really fun. We have an actual episode of that coming up too that'll be out for this month, and hopefully you guys can join us if you're up. If you're not in Europe, and I hope you guys have a great week. Let's see if this works here. We are going to raid. Wait, I'm not on the right tab. Hey, because I'm on the wrong computer for that. I mean, I'm on the right computer for it. I have to do it on this one. Creator dashboard. Music sounded weird. Here we go. I don't know how this works. If you have to be following, I guess you can pick one. You can search for one. But we'll do Time Roller. Everybody say hello to Time Roller for me. And if you want to join this raid, go ahead and click on through. And I hope you guys all have a great week. Thanks for joining me today. Hey, Panda, Angel. Hey, contact me. Amanda, I really want to talk to you. Because I'd like you to be on the show. Anyway, sorry about all that. You guys take care. Bye, everybody. Okay, everybody left with YouTube. Thanks for joining me today. I hope you guys have a great week as well. And thanks for all the chat. It was really wonderful, everybody being here. I wish I had my earplugs in earlier. Take care, everybody. Have a great one. Bye-bye.